Hello and welcome to my little bookish corner of the internet. My name is Harriet. Today I'm going to be talking through the books that I read in June. So June was quite a slow month for me in terms of reading because I finished A Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin. And because that was such a big book, I found it really difficult to get into anything after that. And I also went away for a week where I didn't read at all the whole time. So yeah, I haven't really been able to read too much this month, but the books that I did read, I definitely want to talk to you about because I really enjoyed them. Okay, so let's get started. The first book that I read in the month of June was One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now I read this on my Kindle and it was via Kindle Unlimited, so I don't have to pay for it, which is amazing. But basically the story of this is we are following our main character Emma, and we find out very early on in the book that her husband unfortunately passed away in an accident. So he was caught in a helicopter crash and they never found him, so he was presumed dead. And then we are following Emma later on in her life when she is engaged to another man who is one of her childhood friends. But suddenly it comes to light that her previous husband, who was presumed dead, actually isn't, and he is alive. So yeah, it was a crazy roller coaster of emotions. It was super dramatic, but I really did enjoy it. I thought it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. Reid's writing is always super impressive and really immersive, and her characters are always really well developed and really well thought out. Definitely enjoyed that, and that kind of led me into another book that is on this list, but we'll leave it for a minute. But yeah, definitely worth reading if you want something that is really dramatic and full of emotion and something very romantic as well. And then I moved on to something completely different, which is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I loved this. It was brilliant. You can tell why it is a classic. It is a fantastic book. I loved every single second of it. The characters, again, super well developed. The world that this is set in is just so vast and so impressive. And it's just one of those books that I feel like I'm going to reread over and over again because it was just so heartwarming and wholesome and so easy to sink your teeth into as well. It's got loads of adventure in there. If you don't know the storyline, basically it is set in a fantasy world called Middle Earth, and in Middle Earth there are various different kind of races of magical beings, and one of them are the Hobbits. And they love their homeland and they love eating loads of food and being really cozy and safe. But one time a Hobbit called Bilbo Baggins is sent out on an adventure, and this is following his adventure where he meets dwarves, elves, dragons. It's just fantastic. It's such a good book. Obviously, I gave this 5 stars. If you couldn't already tell, I absolutely loved it. And after reading The Lord of the Rings, I knew I really wanted to get to this as soon as possible. So I read it and I'm so glad that I did. I will definitely be rereading this in the future. And now we get to the book that I'm sure most people on the internet have heard of by now, and that is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This came out on the 1st of June in the UK, I believe. So it's super new, but as soon as I picked it up, all I could think about was how much I wanted to read it. So I smashed through this. I think in one sitting I read 200 pages, which is crazy. I didn't want to put it down. I thought it was great. So basically the storyline of this is we are following a family who, they're very famous in Malibu and just in the world in general. We are following the siblings as they're getting ready for and during the big party that they hold annually. But things have changed a little bit this year. There's some other things going on in the background, and as with all of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books, it is just so dramatic. It is filled with drama and gossip, but it does link into some previous books that Reid has written. So it goes into The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I feel like I recognise some of the characters from Daisy Jones as well. I might be wrong on that front, but I'm pretty sure that some of the characters are in Daisy Jones and the Six. I don't remember too much from that book because honestly I didn't love it, so it didn't really stick with me. But yeah, there's definitely some references to Evelyn Hugo in here, so that was really cool. But you don't have to have read those 2 books to read this. You can read this by itself. It's not in like a chronological order or anything like that. It's kind of got some mystery elements in there as well, because at the start of the book we are told about one fire that happened on one night, and that was the night of one of these parties, and we are basically just going through in chronological order up until that moment when it happened and how it happened. But this was just a wild ride. There are some characters in here that I really, really loved, and also characters that I hated, but I loved to hate them. So just overall, it was fantastic. Wasn't my favourite book ever, so I had to give it a 4.5 stars. I couldn't quite give it a 5 compared to Evelyn Hugo, which I just loved that book so much. This didn't quite hit that mark for me, but I'll definitely reread it. I thought it was phenomenal, so I would definitely recommend this as a summer read. It's steamy, it's gossipy, and it's very character driven as well, so I really enjoyed this. And then the only other 2 books on this list I've actually not finished. I've only started them, but I thought I would show them to you and kind of talk about them a little bit. So believe it or not, I actually finally started Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. Me and my partner started this actually when we came back from eating at a dinosaur themed restaurant. That was the day that we decided we wanted to start this book. But if you didn't know, this is kind of like a brief history, or not so brief history, of humankind, talking about where we come from and our history and things that have happened throughout, and also relating them back to current society and the way things are today. So I've been really enjoying this. It's been written very accessibly, so if you want to learn more about human history but you're nervous about how it's going to be written and whether you're going to be able to understand what's going on, this is the easiest thing to read ever, I promise you. It's so easy to get through. And it's one of those books that you actually don't really want to put down. You just seem to get through it really quickly. So yeah, I've been enjoying it so far. I am currently at page 70 because I'm trying to read it with my partner. So we're taking it nice and slow because he doesn't get a lot of time to sit down and read. And he is trying to read other books at the same time as well. So we don't get too much time to read this, but it's one of those things that you can kind of dip into whenever you feel like it, and you'll be able to pick up where you left off. If anyone is ever interested in the history of humankind, definitely pick this up. It is amazing. And then the final book for the month of June is The Dispossessed by Ursula Le Guin. I'm currently on page 46, so I'm not very far through this, but it already feels like I've got so far through this. Basically, the storyline is that we are following a person called Shevek, and they are a doctor. They're basically attempting to find a new theory of time, but the world that they live in, the society, is not very accepting of change and things like that. This is very much focused on the political side of a society, and also like anarchy and oppression and things like that. There's also mention of slavery in here, but we haven't really touched on that yet. But yeah, so basically the place he lives doesn't really accept this, so he goes elsewhere to try and talk to other people and other societies about his theory. Not gonna lie to you, the first like 20 pages of this, I had no idea what was going on. I was completely lost, and I couldn't keep up with the characters. I really didn't know where it was going. I didn't know what I was supposed to know and what I wasn't supposed to know yet, like if I'd missed anything with reading. I feel like you really do have to pay attention to the start of this book for you to then start to understand what's going on. But like I say, I'm on page 46 now, and I do get where it's going, and it is a lot easier for me to understand now, thank God. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this so far. Le Guin's writing, even though it started off being a little bit hard to follow because you don't get all the answers straight away, which obviously, I do still find the writing style to be really easy to follow. So I'm excited to continue on with this and see how I get on. But yeah, those are all of the books that I read in the month of June. Let me know down below if you've read any of them or if they are on your TBR. But that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!